Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and here's something I thought I'd never say. Welcome today to my review of a $3,500 US Chinese watch that everyone loves. Now, I have been saying for years and years that the only label within the entire watch industry that I truly believe in is made in China. And we all know that many, if not most, Swiss and Japanese brands get many, if not most, of their components, their parts, manufactured in China. The idea, therefore, of a premium luxury Chinese watch shouldn't necessarily be an alien concept. The Chinese watchmaking industry is more than capable of producing it. And if you are into the micro and independent scene, which I assume you are, then you'll know exactly what brand I have on the bench today. It is, of course, Atelier Wen. Atelier Wen was formed in 2017 by two young men, Wilfried and Robin, and I do mean young men. They were 22 years old at the time. When I was 22, I was working in a pub and barely conscious most days. Good for them. This is Wilfried on the right here. He was born in Hong Kong and educated in Beijing. Their aim was to create a watch brand offering the best of Chinese design, the best of Chinese culture, and the best of Chinese craftsmanship. Their first watches with porcelain dials debuted in 2019. They did okay, but it was the launch in 2022 of their Perception model with its hand-turned dial that really brought them to the attention of collectors around the globe. Now, you saw the pop-up? This video is sponsored by Atelier Wen. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the Perception on my wrist today. I had a loaner prototype of their brand new limited edition purple Perception, but it went back to the brand a few weeks ago. These are available to pre-order from the 7th until the 21st of October on their website. I'll of course leave a link in the description. This purple version is apparently not coming back, so if you don't order one by the 21st, or you're watching this video after the 21st, then you're gonna have to find one used. Now, I did have a week or so though to play with, to film, and to try and capture the dial on the Perception as best I could. The hand-turned, artisanally crafted guilloche dial is absolutely the standout feature of the Perception, and it is absolutely as nice as anything I've seen from any other brand at this price point. Is the rest of the watch as good as the dial though? Stay tuned to find out. I'll tell you what is very nice, the packaging. But then again, at $3,500, it bloody well should be. There are several outer boxes that I won't bore you with, and then you get to this bright purple inner box, which opens up kind of like a toolbox or a kind of paint box. Atelier Wen themselves even suggest that you should remove the contents and store your pens and pencils in it and use it as a desk tidy. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I think I would probably want to keep my full kit limited edition Perception as a full kit, but it's certainly a nice piece of design. There's all the usual stuff, polishing cloth, screwdriver, travel pouch, etc, etc, and it comes with a small but very thick book full of information about the brand in general and the watch in particular. And the watch comes with a full 5-year warranty as well. Again, you're paying a pretty penny for this one, so a proper warranty is a good thing. And there is also some slightly unusual golden ticket thing, whereby 3 people who buy the watch won't actually receive the watch. They'll open the box, and rather than getting a purple Perception titanium, they'll receive a ticket saying that they're getting a purple Perception in tantalum. Okay, I guess that's nice, but it wouldn't sway my purchasing decision, put it that way. Anyway, let's get into the dimensions and the specifications then. Despite the unconventional case shape, it does have a fairly conventional 40mm diameter dimension. Thickness is nice, 9.7. Lug to lug also nice at 47.5. Lug width though, definitely not applicable today. As sized for my 7-inch wrist, because it's grade 5 titanium, it weighs only 87 grams. Now, I reckon a proper sports watch must have 100 meters of water resistance, and indeed the Perception has 100 meters of water resistance. The crystal is double dome sapphire with 10 layers of anti-reflective undercoating. And the movement? Well, a Chinese watch needs a Chinese movement, and it gets one. It gets a Peacock SL1588A. A movement that is only partially visible through the case back. Now in some ways that's a bit of a shame because it would have been nice to see it. In other ways that's okay because you get this lion dog or foo dog on the case back protecting your watch, and it's all very nicely done. Getting back to the movement, that has 32 joules, a 41-hour power reserve, a 4Hz beat rate and a tungsten rotor with purple rhodium plating, giving the lion dog a big old grin at certain times. These are adjusted to plus or minus 10 seconds per day from the factory, but then tweaked by the brand in 5 different positions. I will circle back to the movement later on in the video though. The case on this one is gorgeous. Now it seems to me anyway, only a few years ago, that every titanium watch was dull, grey and lifeless, but that's just not the case anymore. The finishing here, particularly the transitions between brushing and polishing, are just about the best that I've seen. The high polished concave bezel is beautifully done and the crystal integrates seamlessly with it. It's a chunky little crown though with the embossed brand logo, but when I unscrew it and I pull it out to the time set position, you can see that the movement doesn't hack. Like I said, I'll circle back to that later. Bracelet. Integrated bracelet sports watches are nothing new. They were all the rage in the 1970s, but they're all the rage again at the moment. As such, most contemporary integrated bracelet watches tend to adopt the look of one of the classic 1970s integrated bracelet watches. And indeed, the Atelier Wen bracelet has that signature kind of snakeskin mid-link effect of the Vacheron 222. No complaints though because it looks fantastic and it wears really nicely. Every single edge of every single link is chamfered and polished, which looks spectacular on a wrist roll. There's enough articulation also that the watch will fit smaller than average wrists, which is often a bit of an issue with this style of bracelet. And the clasp is just fantastic and shows where some of your $3.5 has gone. There's a really neat piece of design regarding the built-in micro adjustment. To operate it, you push down on the brand logo. You then get 3 different adjustment positions. Now it is made of titanium, so it doesn't feel as robust as it would had it been made of stainless steel, but it's not too bad either. And sitting within the scissor component of the clasp, not only do you have the brand name etched and blasted in there, but the clasp itself has a built-in extender, meaning the clasp can be small, but thanks to the extender, it can still fit over a large hand without difficulty. So not one, but 2 really nice bits of design within the same clasp arrangement. Let's get back to the dial though. All perception dials are hand-turned by the same man in China. His name is Master Cheng Yukai, and there are several videos of him at work on the brand's YouTube channel. Apparently he takes 10 hours to hand-turn an individual dial, and if he gets it wrong at any point, if his hand slips so to speak, then the dial goes in the bin and he has to start all over again, explaining where rather a lot of the asking price of this one is allocated. And it's just beautiful. I've looked at a bunch of guilloche dials on the channel in the past. Many of them have in fact been molded rather than etched, and the remainder have been machined rather than hand carved. Knowing that a true artisan, a master of their craft, spent 10 whole hours making sure the dial on your watch, on your wrist is perfect, is I think the biggest reason why the perception has been a real hit with collectors and aficionados. $3.5 US is not an insignificant sum, but can you imagine how much more these would cost had they been Swiss or Japanese made? The high polished silver leaf handset are fairly simple. You wouldn't really want them to dominate the dial, would you? And although there doesn't appear to be a conventional minute track, there is in fact an unconventional minute track. Again, classic ancient Chinese architectural patterning around the outer edges, but if you really focus hard enough, you can divide it into minute sections. And believe it or not, those markings are loomed. So I said earlier on, for me anyway, a true modern sports watch, you want at least 100 meters of water resistance and you want a decent bit of loom. Now, this perception is far, far dressier than most modern sports watches with that ornate dial, but you do get a decent bit of loom, appropriately enough, in a rather ornate pattern. If I turn the speed up, the printing around the edges doesn't last forever, but the hands do hang on reasonably well. Definitely usable after dark. Alright, let's get it on wrist. I'm personally a big fan of titanium watches. I really enjoy the lack of weight. And at 87 grams sized for me, with the benefit of that on the fly adjustable clasp, this one is just going to be super comfortable to wear long term. I have now spotted a few of these out and about, so it seems that people are buying them to wear them and enjoy them rather than just buying them to stick them in watch boxes and brag about owning them. And that is great to see. Now you know that of course at this point we're going to have that usual conversation about legibility, but that's not really what this watch is about, is it? It's about the dial the hands deliberately chosen so as not to overpower Master Yukai's handiwork. They do okay though, all things considered. And let's finish with a pocket shot. I presume you have already noticed, but I even colour matched my t-shirt to the dial today. That's attention to detail for you right there. All right, moans and niggles. I asked earlier on, was the rest of the watch as good as the dial? And I have no complaints about the case or the case finishing, no complaints about the bracelet or the bracelet finishing, and no complaints about the design or execution of the clasp. All of that is fantastic. My complaints today rather centre around the movement. Now, as discussed, a proudly Chinese watch needs a proudly Chinese movement, but this is definitely the weakest link in the chain. As discussed, it's a Peacock. Peacock are an enormous manufacturer of calibers for other brands and for their own watches, for their own brand as well. And this L1588 is apparently right at the very top of their particular ladder of movements. But it does feel a bit out of place considering how refined the rest of the watch is. You can't really see too much of it, so I can't comment about the level of finishing, but I have already told you that it doesn't hack. That's a bit odd at this price, quite frankly. Now, I know the old manual wind Omega Speedies up until a few years ago didn't hack either, but that was odd at their price point as well. And the most obvious tactile engagement point that one has with a mechanical movement, that being manually winding it, is disappointing. The Peacock has one of the roughest and noisiest manual winds I can recall. Now, I tried recording the audio, but I just couldn't get it quite right, so you're going to have to take my word for it. It is so much noisier than any other movement I had in the house, including the humble Seiko NH, for example, and even the Chinese-made Hangzhou 500 in the back of a $200 Lobini. I'm sure it performs well enough, I'm sure it's reliable, and you've always got that 5-year warranty, but I think at some point, the brand may well end up looking at manufacturing their own caliber because at the moment it's the Peacock that's the rather limiting factor. The perception reminded me quite a bit of the Christopher Ward 12X in that it's an integrated bracelet halo sports watch model from a slightly left field brand that still costs a chunk of money. But unlike the Atelier Wen, the Christopher Ward has an in-house caliber. But that doesn't seem to stop people praising and ultimately buying these watches. As discussed, I've now seen a few of them out in the wild and talked to the owners, and they love them because they offer something a bit different from the norm and because of the level of quality, particularly of the dial. I reckon if it was Swiss made rather than Chinese made, you would certainly be adding a 1 to the front of the price, if not adding a 0 to the back of the price, if you see what I mean. Now, these are not going to be for everyone, of course. The entry price is prohibitive to begin with. I mean, I have yet to pay $3.5 grand US / $5 grand Aussie on one single watch. So this is one for the well-heeled collectors today. People who see value in the craftsmanship and the detail, perhaps even people who see value in that made in China label and what the two young gentlemen are trying to bring to the market. So there you have it. Well done for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you fancy a guilloche dial but not this guilloche dial, check out this guilloche dial or this guilloche dial. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you again in the next one.